A clinical psychologist in the United States and the author of the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids book series. I'm looking forward to talking with you about teenagers. I know raising teenagers can be super hard, but there are some secrets that, when you know them, make it easier on you and also on your teen. So, I can't wait to talk to you about how to raise a teen that you'll enjoy living with and be proud to send out into the world. A clinical psychologist in the United States and the author of the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids book series. I'm looking forward to talking with you about teenagers. I know raising teenagers can be super hard, but there are some secrets that, when you know them, make it easier on you and also on your teen. So, I can't wait to talk to you about how to raise a teen that you'll enjoy living with and be proud to send out into the world. A clinical psychologist in the United States and the author of the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids book series. I'm looking forward to talking with you about teenagers. I know raising teenagers can be super hard, but there are some secrets that, when you know them, make it easier on you and also on your teen. So, I can't wait to talk to you about how to raise a teen that you'll enjoy living with and be proud to send out into the world.
Hi, good evening. I would really like to welcome everyone watching us this evening to our sixth and final webinar of the first Arabia virtual conference. Allow me to remind you and encourage you all to follow and share our pages on both Facebook and Instagram. This way, you can receive all future updates and have access to all past recorded webinars. I'm very honored today to welcome Dr. Lora Markham, a clinical psychologist and the author of the Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids book series, to talk to us about teenagers. We all know how challenging raising a teenager can be. We often reach a point where we feel so helpless, out of control, and simply wish we can give up parenting before we lose our sanity, or that teenager whom we no longer recognize. Tonight, Dr. Lora will help us understand our teens and enjoy our relationship with them. But before we start, for your questions, please remember that you can write them down in the comments below, and we will try to answer them either in the conversation or in the near future on our page. So, Dr. Lora, thank you so much for joining us today. We are very happy to have you.
I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, Dr. Lora, our beloved teenagers, maybe sometimes, and this can be a source of stress, anxiety, and perhaps conflict for us parents and family members. So, what do you think are the most important things for parents to keep in mind when parenting an adolescent?
Well, first of all, it's still your child. I know they're bigger than you are now, and they're moody, and they're, you can't just get them to laugh and they look at you like, where'd you come from? But in fact, it's still your child. So
Yeah.
when we ask teenagers, and I've only seen research from the United States on this, but when we ask teenagers about their parents, they say often that their parents are the people they respect most in the world, that the parents are the ones who they want approval from most,
Wow.
and that they wish they could be closer often to their parents, but sometimes they don't want to tell their parents things because their parents will overreact. Their parents will become too emotional or too controlling and say, oh, no, you can't do that, or I'm going to call the teacher or whatever. And so they're more hesitant to share with their parents. They wish they could tell their parents more things. So I think, first of all, remember that they do love us. They do feel that connection, but that it's part of growing up to learn to stand more independently, to learn to deal with the world themselves, and to try their own wings. So they have to keep a little distance from us because they need to try on their independence. The other thing parents to remember is the brain changes. So the brain rewires, literally rewires in early adolescence, 12, 13, 14. So 13-year-olds, they're usually much more emotional. 12 and 13-year-olds are more emotional. And there's a reason for that. It's the brain rewiring. We say it's hormones, and it is hormones, but the hormones cause a rewiring of the brain. So what happens when the brain rewires? Well, some really great things. The teenager is now capable of advanced thought, conceptual thought, mathematics, but they're also capable of something else. They are less influenced by their parents and their history, the weight of what we've always done, the way we've always done it. They're more likely to think outside the box. Why would that be? Well, because humans have depended throughout human history in all cultures. We've depended on young people to come up with new solutions to the problems of our society, to even expand our civilizations, to move to new places and learn new ways and make new friends. So in mathematics, the big breakthroughs are made by people under the age of 30. Isn't that amazing? That's actually true for most fields. Even the big thinkers who wrote books later, much of their thinking was done before they were 30. So this ability to be less influenced by parents and your culture is a little scary to parents and the culture. It's scary to us, but it is what allows our culture to develop and to evolve and to solve the new problems that have arisen, right? So teenagers' brains are set up to pay more attention to their peers and a little less attention to us. That's scary, but that is maybe a good thing for humanity, right? Teenagers' brains are set up to look at risk and evaluate it a little differently than you and I would. You and I would look at a risk and say, that is not worth it.
No.
Whereas the teenager might look at that risk and say, well, but the upside is so big, I'm going to try that. Nothing could happen to me, right? And, that's not always a good judgment, but that's one of the ways that our children learn good judgment is by making some bad decisions and looking at the result of that and realizing, oh, I guess next time I won't do it this way, right?
Absolutely. Wow.
The final thing I would say for parents is that teenagers don't have a context for life. They've never fallen in love before. If they suddenly fall in love, to them, that is the most important thing in the world. Now, you and I might love our husbands. We certainly, hopefully, love our husbands and our children and our, mother and our mother-in-law and everyone around us. But we're able to maintain an even keel, regardless of what happens, hopefully. Whereas teenagers, if they feel love, if they feel anger, if they feel disappointment, that disappointment can be crushing. That love can be, the stuff of fairy tales that they would rather die than not have that person in their life, right? So they don't have a context to
they're exaggerating, they're being over dramatic, and wow, this is very like eye-opener, because we do know that we always blame the hormones and the changes that happens to them, but we know how and this is, and this makes it much easier for us. But, in that respect, how would you say we can stay connected to our teenage children, especially when it feels like they are drawing away from us, and that every bridge we built with them throughout the years is simply falling apart? I mean, how can you stay calm? We're human beings at the end of the day, and we're dealing with, yes, you've just explained how natural and how common the behavior or the way that they're built, our children, the teenager. But how can we as people stay calm and not take it too personal when our teenage children are just challenging us big time and start believing that their parents simply don't understand them, feel their pain, or even care?
Well, I think the first thing is we do need to care. I think that what happens to many parents is they feel disrespected and they feel hurt, and therefore they withdraw and they do stop caring. Or it's just hard when your teenager has all those ups and downs and ups and downs. It's hard to be like, take that seriously, and be sympathetic. And so we're like, you know what? I don't need to hear about this. So we stop listening. So I think if we want to stay close, we have to remember a few things. First, nobody's wrong here. This is just because they're teenagers, right? We just spoke about what the brain does. They're not wrong. They're not bad. I think we need to notice our own emotional reactions. What if our reaction is, oh my goodness, my daughter, she is so pretty. She's going to be turning heads. I do not want to let her out of my sight. She is, cover her up and keep her home and don't let her do anything. I totally understand that reaction. And that might not teach her what she needs to know about protecting herself in the world even, right? If she's always under lock and key. Then when she does have a moment when somehow she's not, she won't know how to protect herself and how to, right? Keep proper boundaries with other people. So I think our fear sometimes creates the outcome we're most afraid of. I know that's crazy, but if you're afraid that you're losing your son because he's on TikTok all the time and he's listening to music that you think is terrible and he doesn't seem to want to be with the extended family when they're over for the meals, and he always wants to go off to his room and be on his phone or go out with his friends, and you feel you're losing him. That's fear. What's our usual reaction when that happens? We raise our voices. We say, you don't appreciate what this family has done for you. You need to come and be with your grandmother. You need to listen to your uncle. You need to be respectful. Where is your, where are in respecting this family? And we yell and we criticize and we restrict. And what ends up happening is we push him away more. And then he loses respect for us because we're fighting. So I think we need to start by realizing we want a close relationship with our children as they grow. We need to listen to them. We need to respect them. It's fine to set limits. It's fine to say to our son, you need to, your aunt and uncle will be here for dinner and your grandmother and you need to be here. That's completely fine. But if he then says, okay, I can do that, but could I go hang out with friends afterwards or before or whatever, or the next day? Then we need to say, okay, what will you be doing? It's fine to say, what will you be doing? Where will you be? Who will you be with? Those are fine questions. Limits are fine. To say you can't go to a party without some adult supervision. You're only 14 or 15 years old. That's fine. But we want to listen. And when he says, oh, but everybody else is allowed to, we can say, wow, it's important that we value the close relationships. It's important that we're respectful to our elders. And I understand you wish you could do whatever, right? So we can listen and still set boundaries. We can respect our child and still expect them to respect the values that we've taught them. And I think it's really important that we find anything positive we can. Son, I love when grandma comes over, you always sit and visit and you really listen to her stories. And I know you've heard those stories before because grandma tells the same stories over and over. Grandmother loves you and she loves to see you. And I really appreciate it. Spend that time with her and listen to her. So anything they do right, don't just take it for granted. I know sometimes we think, well, they should do those things. Why should I say something? You should say something because they need to know that their efforts are appreciated. They need to know you see them trying, right? Daughter, I see how hard you're working in school. You've got a really good mind. And I love to see you using it. And I see you studying hard and really focusing. And I know not all the girls your age are doing that. And I admire that. And I am.
All the parents, that it's really to acknowledge and just to see it. They need us, or they need to know that we see that. We don't just focus on the wrong that they're doing and just put them down whenever we get the chance. In fact, they need to know that our parents love us, and that's when they see both. They do see the bad that we do, but at the same time, they appreciate what we do, like how hard we try. And this is really amazing. But before I go to my next question, I would like to remind everyone that we have another streaming that's going to be in Arabic. So it's going to be translated in Arabic. So please feel free if you'd like to listen to us in Arabic. There's another live streaming going on at this moment.
Zainab, may I add one thing? Because I didn't really address part of your question. You said, how can we avoid taking it personally? That's hard because we get our feelings hurt because they don't value us. Remember, the brain is looking at the teenagers around them. The brain is looking at modern culture, the teenage brain. And they look at us and they think, oh, what do parents know? They're from the past. And that's very hurtful. it's easy to take that personally and feel hurt. And what do humans do when we feel hurt? We get angry. We attack. We say, well, what do you know? You know, when you've raised a family, when you've had to pay the bills, when you've had to hold a job, we get angry and we attack them. But I think that's the thing. They don't have any context. They don't know what it's like to raise a family and have a job and pay the bills yet. They don't know yet.
Yeah.
They will. But right now, when we feel hurt, I think what's best is to keep the lines of communication open. And instead of getting angry, what's really effective is to actually communicate that we feel hurt. And that's very vulnerable. Most of us don't do that. But we can train ourselves to say something like, ouch, that sounds like you don't appreciate how hard I work. Or that sounds like you don't appreciate how your mother and I have raised this family, cared for this family, and tried hard to raise you with the values with what we value. That actually hurt my feelings. I wonder, I hear that you have a different perspective. This is the important thing. You say they've hurt your feelings. Then you say, I hear you have a different perspective. I wonder if you could tell me what you just said again, but in a way with some words that are respectful, that don't hurt. You know, so it's fine to say, when my kids were teenagers, they're young adults now, and they do not act like teenagers. They are much more considerate now. But when they were teenagers, I would sometimes say to them, ouch, were you trying to hurt my feelings? And they would usually say, oh no, mom, sorry, didn't mean to hurt your feelings, right? Say, were you trying to hurt my feelings? And they would realize, you know, and if they did say, sometimes my daughter would say, yes, I'm mad at you. And then I would have to say, okay, mad's allowed. You're upset about something. Tell me what it is. Let's solve this problem together. It's okay to be mad at someone, but you need to respect it, to express your anger in a respectful way. I know these,
but you know what? Yeah, absolutely. Keeping those channels open all the time with our children is really very important, and we tend to, you know, with by the time the days are passing, we just forget, with all the, you know, the busyness and the crazy lifestyle. It's just, we just forget to connect and to, you know, keep those channels open. But sometimes I feel like with the teenagers, they don't say it in front of our faces sometimes, Dr. Laura. Sometimes they would be talking to others, either adults or their friends, and sometimes we either overhear, or someone tells us, or why we monitor their social media. We would sometimes see them say that they don't, you know, like they would say things that aren't true about us, like we want to hurt them, or we want to, you know, we don't understand them, we don't care. And what do we do in this case?
So I would want to know if they are saying something to impress their friends, right? Like my mother, she won't listen to reason. I'm never allowed to do anything. But maybe they don't really want to do that thing, and they're blaming you. So if that's it, I don't have a problem with them using me as the bad, you know, the one who's restricting them. So they,
Yeah.
my daughter used to do that. She would say, my mom wants me home now, she would say, you know, and it was like, she would say, Mom, you needed me to come home. She would call me and say, Mom, you needed me to come home right after school, right? And I would say, yes, right now. Because she was obviously trying to get away from something, you know.
Yeah.
She didn't feel comfortable going to someone's house or something, you know. So they might use this that way. But I think what you're saying is different. I think what you're saying is, when they say on social media, my parents don't understand me, they never listen to me. That's hurt feelings on their part. We need to listen to those hurt feelings. And we need to initiate a conversation, not an attack, a conversation where we hear, so we can, you know, you said that the bridges between us start to get wobbly and maybe vanish as they get older, because the ways we connected are gone. Well, we need to rebuild those bridges. When we hear something like them saying to their friend, or we see it on social media, my parents don't understand, they never listen to me, we need to rebuild that bridge. So what I would do is later, not right that moment, I would calm myself down first. I would remind myself, this isn't about me, it's about them. whether they feel hurt or not. I've been a good mom. It's okay, but I'm going to listen to them and rebuild this bridge. And then I would sit down with a child at a time, hopefully when they're relaxed and not busy or angry or whatever. I wouldn't do it when we're in the, home and they say something rude and leave the room. I would not actually necessarily do it right then when everybody's emotions are escalated. Yeah. I would wait until a calm moment, and then I would go and sit down and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I noticed I overheard you say that I never listened to you, that I don't care what you think. I'm so sorry if you feel that way. I'm so sorry about anything I've done that has made you feel I don't care. I could never care about anyone more than I care about you. I care about you so much. And I guess I haven't always done a good job listening in the way you needed me to. Maybe I thought I listened, but they didn't think so. So in the way you needed me to, I haven't always done a good job listening. So I'd like to change that. I want to apologize. I want to make things better, and I want to change that. And I'd love to ask you if there are specific things I haven't been hearing that you've been trying to tell me. Now, you know what will happen at this moment? Your child will look at you and they won't believe you. Because if they felt hurt, they're not ready to say, oh, here's the door to my heart. I'm opening it up and you can come and hurt me again. No, they're not going to believe you. They're going to need you to prove yourself. Because remember, this is their hurt feelings from not feeling heard, even if you didn't intend that. So when you say this, you know what they're going to do? Okay, mom. Okay, mom. They might just sort of put you off, and you can say, okay, sweetheart, but I really mean this. I would love to do something with you regularly, like every week. Why don't we go on a walk together? Every, whatever day is the right day,
Sorry, I can't. I couldn't hear you. Sorry, if you can say it again.
Yes. Just pick a time every week when you and your child can go for a walk together, and just listen. Bite your tongue. Just listen. Don't give them advice. When they tell you about problems they're having, say, wow, that does sound like a big problem. It's going to be hard to figure that out. Or don't say, oh, I'll call the teacher. Say, wow, I wonder what you could say to the teacher now to make it better. Or, wow, when your friend said that to you, that could really hurt your feelings. That's so hard. No wonder your feelings were hurt. Don't give them advice. Just listen, acknowledge, validate, and you will prove yourself to them over time, and they will begin to open up to you again. And I think you'll find they don't say things like that about you to anyone after that.
Wow. It's really an eye-opener, because we always tend to try and fix their problems and try to jump into their lives and make everything okay. And you're right.
Let's consider why that's not a good idea. So sure, we are experienced. We think we know better. Now, first of all, we might not know better. We grew up in a different world than they did, right? We might not know how to answer somebody who has just said something on social media that was rude to them. We probably don't know the right way to handle that, right? Maybe if you answered them back, it makes the whole thing bigger. Whereas if you ignore it, it just goes away. I don't know, but we don't really know is the point. They might know better than us in some cases. But even if we do know better, if we know what they should do with the teacher or the friend, right? It doesn't matter. Let's say we give them advice. Let's say that we give them good advice. Let's say they try our advice. They take our advice and they do it and it works out well. What is your child's takeaway? What do they learn from that experience? Well, my mom is really smart, or my dad is really smart. They know what to do in these situations. Not me, though. I really don't know what to do. That's not what we want. We don't want them to feel lesser. We want them to notice that, in fact, they do know what to do. And it's not that we can't ever comment. Like if our teenager says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell that teacher I hate them. I will never speak to them again. And they say something really disrespectful, let's say. We know better. We might say, I see how angry you are at the teacher and why you'd want to say that. You think the teacher has been so unfair. And your child says, of course, can't you see how unfair they've been? And you can say, it does seem like maybe they're not being fair. Maybe we don't know the whole story, but it does seem they're being very hard on you. So you could tell them that. And what do you think would happen then? What do you think would happen then? And your teenager will say, I guess I would fail the class and get kicked out of the school, and you say,
Yeah.
maybe. And they say, yeah, I guess I don't want to do that. I'm mad, but I'm not going to do that. Right. So I think it's much better to let them come to their own conclusions. And we can say to them, sure, I understand why you would want to do that. And what do you think would happen then?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just getting them, once they reach that conclusion on their own, they will trust it more. They will, it will stick more, and they will be, as you said, they will build their confidence. And this is really important to always keep it in our minds before jumping and trying to give the advice and help them.
It also helps their brain development. The prefrontal cortex is in development until they're 25. And this is the part of the brain that makes decisions and evaluates risk and looks down the road and says, if I say this to the teacher, could be that bad result, right? It's the part of their brain that thinks well. So before we give them opportunities to use that part of the brain in calmer moments when we're listening and saying, and what do you think might happen then? That develops that part of the brain and they become wiser.
Wow, absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Lora, that brings me to my next question. How can we raise our children so they develop the qualities we want to see in our kids, to find that balance between, as you were mentioning, that to stick to our family values, but at the same time, and the boundaries that we set for them, but at the same time to, while granting them some freedom and autonomy, which is, of course, very important, without losing control, what's that borderline between giving them their privacy, which it's the right, and keeping an eye at what they do for protection and guidance, and they're children at the end of the day. So we need to show them trust while monitoring them. How does that work?
It's tricky in this modern world, right? We need our teenagers to be gradually gaining the skills for adulthood. That's our job as parents. So we can't just keep them under lock and key where they don't have any freedom, because they would never gain the skills that they need. It needs to be a gradual process. So we need to relax controls gradually as they demonstrate that they can handle that. But the world is changing very fast, and we need to remember that they will be in a different world than we are in now. The world is already changing so fast. Many of those changes are scary to adults. We don't like those changes. We would rather things stay just the way they are. So how to navigate, ask parents to think about a few questions. What qualities do you think will make your child successful in this changing world, right? And then what experiences would your child have in the teen years to develop those qualities? And are you giving your child those experiences? How can you safely give your child those experiences, right? So let's think one of the qualities we need is for our children to be able to think for themselves and not just do what they're told. Children who just do what they're told don't just do what we tell them. They do what their friend tells them. Your daughter might do what the teacher tells them that's good, but she has to be able to think for herself so some teacher doesn't take advantage of her, right? We need our children, girls and boys, to think for themselves, to be able to say, no, that's not right. I'm not going to go along with that, right? We need them to really evaluate. And that means that they have to practice that with us as teenagers. So when they say to us, I don't want to do that, the proper response is, tell me about that. Why don't you want to do that? And to have a real discussion. So many of us want to just, how can you speak to me that way? And of course you're going to do what I tell you to do. But it's actually important that we start noticing that they're not children anymore. They're teenagers. They're older. Maybe they're 13 or 14. We're not going to let them make all their decisions at 13 or 14, of course. But we are going to start listening when they have a different opinion. If your son or daughter says, I think it's this idea, I know I was taught this idea, it's part of our culture, let's say, but I don't agree with it. It's our job to say, well, it's your right to not agree with it. In our home, we do it this way, and we always will. When you're older and have your own home, you might choose to do it a different way. And believe me, when they're older and have their own home, they probably will have forgotten all about this silly idea they have. But it's our job to listen and to say, tell me about that. And let them articulate it to you. Maybe they decide that it's silly on their own, or maybe they decide that it's a good thing, and maybe you decide it's okay too. Maybe you decide,
maybe I've changed my mind. Maybe I'll add it, or I'll amend our the boundaries and the values. Yeah,
exactly.
They often come to us with some really interesting ideas.
They definitely do. They're thinking. And another thing they're doing is they're hopefully developing what we call emotional intelligence and better communication skills. So if we want our children to have satisfying marriages, listen, there was a time when people didn't worry.
Sorry, Dr. Laura, I can't hear you again. I'm not sure if it's me or...
Can you hear me now?
The connection.
I don't know. I haven't done anything different. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're back. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Thank you for letting me know. So there was a time, not so long ago, in virtually every country in the world, where you married who your parents told you to marry. And if it wasn't a very satisfying marriage, you never complained, and you just did what you did, and you got along and you made it work, or maybe it didn't work so well, but you did it. And I think we've learned, all of us, that it matters to have a satisfying marriage. It matters to have, a man and a woman who can listen to each other and love each other and support each other and help each other through the hard times. And I think to learn the skills to communicate and have a satisfying marriage is important. And kids learn those skills in home before they ever get married. Right? So when we talk about family values in that marriage, well, part of it is learning to communicate. Part of it is learning more emotional intelligence. All the things we've been talking about listening to the other person and trying to understand the other person's point of view. And instead of having an outburst and a tantrum when our feelings are hurt, we could say, ouch, that hurts my feelings. I know you didn't mean to, but it made me feel terrible when you said that. I felt you were not valuing me or respecting me. And the other person might say, well, I'm mad at you because of whatever, or sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. That could also be what they might say. But notice this is a different way of relating than most of us were raised with. And if we want our children to have happy marriages, to have, even to have good work relationships in the workplace, to be able to stand up for themselves, but to do it in a way that doesn't create drama with other people, create hurt feelings with other people, right? Because there are always problems at work with people, but to be able to be someone who is able to keep things calmer. When we talk again about family values, what are the values that matter to us here? The values are about how we treat other human beings. And so that starts in our homes.
Of course. Of course.
And for children to be successful in their profession, financially successful, they actually need some communication skills. They need other things. They need some savvy with numbers maybe, or they need to know that they have to work hard at things. Those are very important values to know we have to work at things. Things don't just come easily. It's okay to uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay not to be good at something and then have to work hard at it. These are all things we have to teach our children, but also teaching, if we're teaching the values that we have, we're teaching them to treat other people with respect and kindness well, and to listen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Laura, we are having some questions. I would like to, some are actually repeated. One of the questions was, how can we control our children's addiction to electronic games? And I thought maybe this comes under the boundaries and like the things, boundaries at home. So
yes,
and with pandemic and distance learning, and we are all hooked to our devices. So let alone our children who are all the time on their devices, and teenagers who are just starting with the social media and everything. So it is addiction. What advice would you give parents with that?
So the first advice I would give is when teenagers are young, delay. If someone listening has a 13-year-old and they don't yet have social media, good. Wait. Wait as long as you can before you let them have social media. Just in our family, we wait until we're whatever age. Now you can't wait until they're 21 or maybe even 17 or 16, but you might be able to wait until they're 14 or 15, right? So and for different social media, different amounts. When you do give them a social media account, when you do allow them to have social media, spend time with them initially on the social media. Make sure you have their passwords. Say to them that you'll be monitoring them, and that every day at the end of the day, you want to have a nice little visit together where you will look at what they did on their social media and talk about the issues that came up. So when you first give a child a phone and they're texting, at the end of the day, you would look together at the texts and you would say, oh, so your friend texted you this. That might have been a little hard to get that text because she said something mean about your other friend. That's sort of uncomfortable. What did you do? How did you handle it? Oh, I just ignored it. Or, oh, I wrote her back and said, don't be mean. Or I wrote her back and said, yeah, I don't like that friend either. Whatever they do, it'll be apparent what they did on the phone. And you can say, how did you feel when that happened? And what if you were the third girl who had the mean thing said about you? How would you feel? What if she actually were on the thread and you didn't realize it, right?
So you can teach them a lot along the way.
Yes.
Which is not just the negative. We're always very, very focused about the negative, but a lot of positives we can absolutely derive from that. Yeah. Well, but how about that addiction?
Well, so they're going to use the phone. It's our job to help them learn positive ways to use it and to notice. And, there's a reason these negative things happen. Some boy is very interested in your daughter. He's not allowed to see her, but he's very interested in her. He's her brother's friend, let's say, and he's very interested in her. And he gets her phone number and he starts sending her texts. You're going to want to know about that, right? You're going to want to know about it. But she's not going to want to tell you because she's so flattered and excited. And she thinks he's cute and she's sort of, wow, there's this whole new world all of a sudden. He's too young to be texting him. And we don't know what he's asking her in these texts or what's transpiring. It's really important that you start off her using this phone to know she has to be responsible and she has to answer to you about what she's doing. And she's not allowed to delete things and she has to show you. And when that first text comes in from him, and you can say to her, this might happen. I want you to know this might happen. You might get a text from one of your brother's friends. You don't know. And I want to tell you, you do need to come to me with that text. You need to show me the text. And I'm not going to overreact, but you need to be responsible about it, and and if you're going to have a phone, you have to be responsible. And this is what it means. So talk to your child about the kinds of things that might come up and supervise. I would say be with your child supervising that media every day. If they're on TikTok, every day in the beginning, not forever, but in the beginning. That way you're familiar with it. You see what the problems are. You see what's exciting about it. You see where the limits need to be, right? And you have some familiarity with it. Now, the addiction, you also have to be involved in, because all of us get addicted, and it's even harder for teenagers to avoid the addiction, right?
Yeah,
Because of the
of
way their
course.
brains work, because of their brains. So you have to start by being a good role model. If you, mom or dad, get up from the dinner table, if you're having a meal with your family and you get up from the table because something comes in on your phone, you're setting the wrong example. If you're in a car, heaven forbid, dad's driving the car and something comes in on his phone and he picks it up, terrible example. No, there are certain times to use our media and certain times no. And here's one time you shouldn't be using it: when your teenager comes to you and says, Mom, Dad, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. That's like a blessing from God. You know,
Mm.
when they say there's something I want to talk to you about, you say, thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
And
you
we move our phones
yes,
to the
you turn it
side,
off. You turn it off. You put
turn
it
it
away
off.
so it's not buzzing at you, because when it buzzes at you, research shows your attention can't help but go there. Just turn it off, put it over there. Your child will remember for the rest of their life that you
Absolutely.
turned off your phone to listen. We need to be the
Absolutely.
role models, and we can require them. Turn off the phone at meal times. And here's a really important one. At night, they shouldn't have the phone under their pillow. We think it might be bad for your brain, but it's definitely bad for your sleep. They should take that phone, and there should be a place where they plug it in to charge it downstairs, where everybody puts their phones. Maybe it's by the front door, maybe it's, wherever it is, that a place where everybody in the family charges their phones, and no one should have their phone at their bed. Not adults, not teenagers, not anybody. And they will want it up there in the evening, but they have to bring the phone down and plug it in. That's a rule. And when they don't do it and you're getting ready for bed, you say, hi, honey, and you knock on their door. You don't just
Mhm.
burst in. You knock on their door and you open the door and say, hey, hon, I notice your phone is not downstairs yet. I'm taking mine down right now. Can I grab yours to put it downstairs for you?
Yeah,
And your kid's
yeah,
like, no, I need my phone. And you say, you know what? It's after whatever o'clock, whatever that time is. That's after 9 o'clock. We always plug in our phones downstairs at 9, whatever. But you can have some limits on when phone use is allowed.
yeah, yeah. I like the word we. We plug our phones. We, like, it's not just, you're the guilty one. You're the one who has the boundaries. You're the one who needs to do that. And
Right.
that's very intimidating. And you're right. We need to model it. We need to relax and just switch off a lot of the times. We need it badly. So
We
let
need
alone
it
our
anyway.
children.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at some of the questions as well. So apparently, stubborn teenagers is a question that's coming up a lot. So how to deal with stubborn teenagers, in your opinion?
Well, I'd love to know an example of when they're being stubborn, but I would say, Zaina, that when somebody else that we're dealing with is being stubborn, it usually means we're being stubborn too. It means there's a disagreement about what somebody wants, and
Yeah,
the other person is not backing down. They're being stubborn. Well, that
yeah,
means we're being stubborn too. So I would say they're not children anymore, they're teenagers. We don't have to change our mind and let them have what they want, but we do need to listen and consider and look, see if there's a way that everybody can get what's most important to them here. Maybe not, but often there's a win-win solution where we can both get what we want in the
I
situation.
agree. Yeah, 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 I agree. And this is how they learn that it's never like black and white. It's either my way, your way. We don't need to do it this way.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great life lessons that we can both learn together, don't
Yes.
we?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, a really a good question, Dr. Laura. If I did with my daughter all these negatives, so basically a parent asking if they were wrong and they've destroyed their relationship with their daughter, what can they do now? What advice can you give an aching heart, an aching mother's heart who thinks that she lost the relationship with her daughter? What do you think she can do?
I would say first, it is not too late to change that. It it's
Absolutely.
it that heartbreak is showing her how much she loves her daughter and how much she wants to rebuild that bridge. And here's the thing, we do have to make repairs. We have to apologize, and we have to start showing up differently. And there's one more thing. We have to let them show us all their hurt. We have to let them show us the hurt, because her daughter is caring. Her daughter wanted to have a relationship with her mother that was good. They all do. And then when it was hard for the daughter felt hurt. And then the daughter probably built some armor, some walls around her heart.
Yeah.
Self safe. So this mom has to be aware that she has to get through that armor. And the way to do that is to make it safe for her daughter again to be vulnerable with her. And so her daughter will probably show her that pain. Her daughter will probably angrily show her that pain, because that's
Yeah.
what, when we have pain, when we have pain, excuse me. So I would,
Take your time.
I would say to this mother, first, cry. Do your own crying. Your heart is full of tears. Go and acknowledge all that pain yourself, and give yourself some love. Do not beat up on yourself. Do not be negative towards yourself. Just say to yourself, you did the best you could at the time. Now you know better. You're going to do better. And cry and hold yourself and hug yourself. Get a little bit of recovery there for yourself, and then go to your daughter and say, sweetheart, I am so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it was the right thing, and I was just wrong. I was just wrong. I didn't listen to you. I yelled at you. I was scared. You can say I was scared. You were beyond my control, and so I did things out that I'm sorry about, that I'm embarrassed about, ashamed of, whatever. I didn't role model being a mature, responsible, emotionally generous adult with you. I am so sorry. That was my job as a parent, to be that grown up for you, that adult, and I didn't do it. And I hurt you, and I drove you away. And I want to tell you I'm sorry. And I want to know what I can do to make it up to you. And she might say, there's nothing you can do. I don't want to be close to you. She might, or she might say, oh, I'm so glad you said that. We can work this out. She might. Probably it'll be somewhere in the middle. Probably it won't be so forgiving, but it won't be so pushing you away either. It'll probably be, okay, mom, and she doesn't quite trust you yet, right? Or she might get angry. She might say, you want to be close to me now, but you embarrassed me in front of my friends. You yelled at me and said terrible things to me. You didn't trust me. She'll just, whatever it was, she will tell you all of the pain in her heart. And you might want to say, I didn't do that, or whatever. You might want to say, yes, but if you had acted right, I wouldn't have done it. No, don't even go there. Don't even go there. Just listen and say, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I hear you. I hear you. I hear how embarrassing it must have been when I did this in front of your friends. I hear how it must have hurt you when I didn't trust you and I said those awful things to you. It must have hurt you so much, and I'm so sorry. So I think that's what you do. You just apologize, and you don't take anything personally that your child says. And if your child is angry, you acknowledge that, no wonder you're angry at me. And you must be really, notice that the anger's on top, but underneath the anger, there's hurt. So notice that the hurt and fear that you stopped loving her. And you need to reassure her that you never stopped loving her.
Yeah. And I think it starts by step process. It never just happens. It never just ends from the first conversation. And she might not say anything, any word from the first conversation. And parents shouldn't be discouraged. It's a process. And I would say don't just rely on the conversation, even if everything was felt like it was resolved from the first conversation, but we need to show them in action that we're serious. We want to spend more time. We want to work on our relationship more. So thank you. Yes, I think there's a lot to be done, and there's hope. That's the most important thing for them to know, for this mom in specific. Dr. Laura, how can parents prepare for the stage? How can we, like, my daughter is 8, turning 9, so soon to be a teenager, a preteen and a teen. So how can we prepare ourselves to the stage? How can we prepare our children as well? What do you think?
Well, I think one very important thing is to know what we're modeling. So if your 8-year-old comes to you and wants to talk and you've got your computer open, I would say, again, just as we said earlier, put that computer away, close that computer, get it out of the way, right? Put that phone away, because whatever you do now with them is what they will be doing with you. If you want your child, who's now 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12, to put their phone away when you ask them to later, or when you speak with them, you need to start doing it now to role model that for them. So that would be the first thing. The second is to really delay screens as long as you can. I know with remote schooling, they've had to use screens, but children need to be outside. Children need to be with peers whenever that's possible. Children need to be connecting with us. Children need to be laughing, and they need to be physically active. And so all of those things are really important. They need to be creative. And so making sure your child has time for those things, to be with you in positive ways on a regular basis, every day, spending one-on-one time with each child. Let's say you have 3 children, time with each child every day, rather than just all together, because that protects the relationship with each child. It means that child feels like they really matter to you. Yeah. And that, even though you love their siblings, you love them, and you will be, maybe you're always there with the little one because they're little, but that you value them too. And you're always there to listen to them. That really matters. And make sure you're laughing with them as much as you can. Make sure that's part of what you do with them, and listening as much as you can, and do what they like to do. I know you might not have a lot of fun, building things with your son, or playing soccer with your son, or whatever else your child might want to do. But if we do what they want to do, we have a window into their world and what's important to them, and they feel really valued by us. So don't use that one-on-one time to lecture them and teach them. Use it to appreciate them.
Yeah, this is very important. And I feel like it's quality more than quantity. I was talking to this mom the other day who has two beautiful daughters, and she always feels so guilty that she's unable to give each child their a dedicated time, and she knows the importance of that. And especially with distance learning and working from home and always being together, it's really hard to tell one of the children, just go aside. But I want to spend it just with your sister. But I was telling her that it's the those little opportunities when one is actually taking a shower, even if it's just 5-10 minutes, that just use it for some good quality conversation. Look them in the eye and ask them, how is their day going? How are they feeling? And as you said, we don't need to use this for lectures. We can't. We need to make sure that it's their time, the time that they're going to be also, opening up for us, and just enjoying it, just having good memories with our parents, not the police, in the house. Amazing. This is really nice. Actually, first I need to remind everyone that we have the Arabic streaming as well, going on at the same time. It's live, and I'm looking at some of the some of the questions coming. So, yeah, tough one, but it's similar to the question we had before. Someone's asking that they beat their child when he provokes her or him, I'm not sure, with his stubbornness and loud voice. What do you have to say about that, Dr. Lora?
So one thing we know from now 5 decades of research is that hitting children does not teach them what we want to teach them. All over the world, people have always hit their children to get them to obey. It's been true in every culture.
Yes.
But we have now learned, we have 50 years of research now that is very good research that follows people who were spanked or beaten as children or slapped, hit in any way. And we follow them to adulthood. And what we've learned is when kids are hit, it's always bad for them. It causes them to be more likely to be depressed or anxious as adults. It causes them to be more angry as young people and to misbehave more because they're angry. It causes them to be more angry as adults and to have worse relationships with other people. So it sabotages them for life. And it doesn't actually cause them to get along better with us or to obey more.
It doesn't work. They don't listen.
It doesn't work. They don't listen. In fact, it drives them away because it only works for as long as you're bigger than they are. Then when they're bigger than you can't do it anymore. And then they have no reason to do what you say. The only reason that we can get another person to do what we want is that we have what we call influence them. Influence comes from the relationship. It comes from them trusting us. If you trust your doctor, you might do what your doctor tells you because you trust their expertise. If you trust your mother or father, you're likely to do what your mother or father suggests to you because you trust that they care about you and what's best for you and that they have some wisdom. If you're a child and your parents tell you to do something that is not what you want them to do, they tell you, go take your shower, clean up your toys, don't throw your food, be nice to your sister, whatever your parents are telling you. Why would you do those things when you don't want to? Well, because you love and respect your parents. So you follow their rules. But your parents routinely beat you or even slap you, anything. Will you respect and love them? You might be afraid of them. But to me, that is not respect. To me, that's fear. There's a different thing. My daughter, who is now 24, says that I asked her about this recently. And she said, Mom, I have never been afraid of you. I respect you more than anyone in the world. I don't think fear and respect are the same thing. I said, why do you respect me? And she said, because you act with integrity, you do the right thing, you listen to me, listen to other people, you show up and do what's right. And I respect that. But if you yelled and tried to get me to do what you want, I would be angry at you and I wouldn't respect you anymore because that is not a good way for people to act, to be yelling all the time. In fact, there's research that shows that yelling at teenagers, yelling and shouting on a regular basis. Also, not yelling once in a while. Yelling once in a while is probably fine.
Of course, so that we don't feel guilty because all of us
probably fine. But if you yell and shout at your teenager on a regular basis, it is not good for them. Again, especially if you yell, if you call them names, or if you say things that are mean, especially that. It is very harmful to them, and it causes the teenager, again, to be more prone to depression or anxiety as they get older, and also to be they're more likely to lie to you, to not do what you say, but to lie to you, to go behind your back.
Because they're afraid.
Yes.
So fear gets them to just lie, not to fix the behavior.
So this parent who wrote to you that they that they have beaten their child, I would say the first thing to do is to say to themselves, I am not going to do this anymore. When I'm angry at my child, I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to, after I calm down, I'm going to figure out the best approach, but I'm not going to hit my child anymore. That's the first thing. And then they can apologize to the child and say, sort of what we said earlier about, I'm sorry, I thought that was the best thing, but I don't think it is. I still expect you, they can say to their child, to act right, to follow our rules in our home. But when you are angry at me, I'm not going to then beat you. I'm going to listen to you, and we're going to work things out. I'll need you to use a respectful voice so I can actually listen to you without getting upset. But we can work things out. We're a family. What families do is they work things out with the people they love.
Absolutely. And you know what, when we model how we calm ourselves down, how we regulate our feelings, our emotions, it's a really important lesson for our children to learn that never act when you are angry. Just do exactly what your parents were doing. They went aside, they took their time to calm down. It's fine. They either counted to 10 or 200 or 1,000. It's their time that they needed to calm down, and they're wise. They're smart. They know that their parents are angry now. They know that they can react, but we shouldn't be reacting. We should just do what's right and calm down. But you're saying, so trust and love and the relationship. How about authority? Do we not show them authority, that we are the ones they need to listen to? We are the ones running this household or this family. We are the ones who have put the rules here. How do we, what do you think about authority? Is it important, or?
Well, so yes and no. Yes, authority is important. When you have a 4-year-old, they are not allowed to make all their own decisions, but they're allowed to make some of their decisions. That 4-year-old might be allowed to decide, to eat one thing or not another thing, or the 4-year-old might be allowed to decide that they don't really want to play with that friend. They want to play with a different friend. That would be okay, maybe, when we haven't yet set anything up. But the 4-year-old can't decide when they're going to bed. We're going to decide that, the 4-year-old can't throw their food at the table when they're done eating. They can stop, and they can maybe get down from the table, but they cannot, start throwing their food around. So there are things that they're allowed to decide, and there are things they're not allowed to decide. Now, that's a 4-year-old. An 8-year-old has more things they can decide, right? That 8-year-old can decide what clothing they want to put on. But they can't just wear what that movie star is wearing. They have to wear clothes that you've agreed they're okay for them to wear, right? So, within certain parameters, that 8-year-old can make some decisions for their life. Now, that 13-year-old, that teenager, well, she can make some decisions too, but again, she's not ready to make all of her decisions. So we have to gradually give them what they're allowed to decide. And we can say to the 13-year-old, in our house, we don't give a cell phone to 13-year-olds yet. You'll get a cell phone eventually, I promise. And I know you wish you could have one, and I know your friend has one, but we're not going to do that yet in our house. You're the authority on that, right? But when your 13-year-old says, but I don't like that color shirt you bought me. Well, then she's allowed to say she doesn't like that color shirt. She doesn't have to wear it. You can say, and that's terrible. You just spent money on this shirt. Maybe you can exchange it. Maybe you can give it as a gift to someone else and buy her a different shirt. But the point, she shouldn't be forced to wear the shirt that she hates the color of, right? She's decided to look good on her, whatever. So there are things she's allowed to decide. And the more we can give them the right to make those decisions, the more when it's time for the important decisions like, no, you don't get a cell phone yet, the more important that is. Now, there will come a time when they're 17 and you say, I'm really not comfortable with that, whatever that is. And your child says, hopefully, if you've had good discussions right along, your child will want to meet your needs. So an example would be where my daughter wanted to do something with her friends. And she said, Mom, I'm going to ask you this. I know you won't like this idea. You won't like this idea. You won't want me to do this with my friends.
She knows.
But here's why it's going to be okay. First of all, I'm going to do all my homework the day before. I'm going to do this and that and the other thing, and I'll have everything turned in. That's the first thing. Secondly, there will be one of the other moms will be there. She's going to go with us to do this shopping trip, you know. And thirdly, I'm not asking you for any money. I have the money saved up and what I was given by my grandmother for my birthday, and I can do that. And fourth, you know, I promise I won't buy something crazy. I'll buy something appropriate, you know, whatever. So she's already knows what will bother me, because the whole time we've been having these discussions. So she knows, okay, these are the things that are important to mom. So I'm going to make sure when I talk to my mother, and you know, how great. She has now taken these ideas in as her own. Wear some, you know, buy something appropriate to wear. You know, you're not just asking your mom for money. It's money you earned from your babysitting job. You know, you know, you get your homework done first. You know, there's another mother with you. So you're not running around with all four girls off somewhere shopping. You know, they've got a mother with them, whatever. So I think what's important is that we listen and we try to work out solutions, and we get clear about what matters to us. And we tell our child, no, I'm not comfortable with that because of this. But some things we might say, sounds like this is really important to you, but it's also really important to me that you stay safe, and that, you know, that you are supervised. So how can we work this out? And, you know, you make sure that you feel comfortable with it too, before you loosen your restrictions.
I like that. So basically we pick our battles since they're too young until they're older. And this actually answers our next question. That's how is it possible to teach teenagers about our boundaries, and like, especially when they're trying to, like, they want to stay up late or go out without the parents' knowledge, and they're convinced they're free, but so I'm trying to read the question, but yeah, it's actually, as you were saying, trying to listen to them and try, like, when we set our limits, it's there. The boundaries are there. There is nothing that we can do to change unless we listen to what they're trying to like. But what if they're not convinced at all? Like, they're not there. They're not giving you the alternatives. They're not trying to take them as their own and build on them or convince you in any way. What do they do?
I think the earlier you start looking for win-win solutions, the better. So if you have, you know, your 8-year-old and your 13-year-old, and you work with them on a win-win solution, well, this makes me uncomfortable because of whatever. How are you going to get your homework done? You know, the sooner you start working on those win-win solutions, the more you create in your home an understanding that you will try to work with them on a win-win solution, but you do have the final say because you're the parent. And when you have a teenager who is 16 or 17, they are still living at your home. They do still need to do what you ask them to do. It's not okay for them to spend the night at their boyfriend's house, for instance, or their girlfriend's house. But you have to have a relationship with them to support that. Because otherwise, what are you supposed to do? You can't, you know, chain them up, right? So you do have to have right? You have to have a relationship that supports that, where you say, sweetheart, I know you don't want everybody talking about how you were out so late and dressed like that. That's not what you want. I know. But I think I look great in this. I think you look great in it too, but I don't think it's appropriate to wear, you know, or whatever. Yeah. And you can say, tell you what, you can wear that at home, but you cannot wear that out to a party. You know, if you want to wear that to a party when you're in your 20s and you're no longer living at home, that's fine. But you can't wear that to a party because, you know, everybody's going to talk about it and you're not going to like what they're going to say. And I'm certainly not going to like what they're going to say either. But you know what? What else do you have that you could wear? Let's find something great you can wear. You can look in my closet too if you want. No, Mom, I don't want to wear what you have in your closet. You're old fashioned. Okay. But let's figure something out that works for both of us. Right. So I think if you're reactive and just say no, your child is going to hide that thing, put it in her bag and put it on when she gets to the party. You don't want that. Yeah. You want her to actually be able to talk
Okay, so basically it's it's the way our tone, our conversation plays a huge role, and it's respecting them, showing that we listen, we respect them, and just yes, stand on our, like, we to stood our grounds, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Laura. I really wish I can read the rest of the questions. It's just not possible. We've already exceeded our time. Really, I'm just going to encourage everyone who's listening, please, we have the questionnaire in the comments. Please try to answer the questions to help us with in the future. And really thank you, Dr. Laura, for being with us tonight, and for all the valuable information, the advice you've given us. It was such a pleasure talking to you and really learning so much from you. I really hope every parent out there got few tips and bits to work on and to implement. And as we end our last session from Arabia virtual conference, I would like to thank everyone for attending all or some of our webinars. Please stay tuned and like and share our pages on Facebook and Instagram, because you need to know more about our future conferences and many more parenting topics to discuss. Thank you so much, and good night.